Welcome back to the Manifestation Method, the place where science meets soul and where your dreams meet divine design. Today's episode is going to awaken something ancient in your bones, because I'm here to tell you that manifestation is not just a new age trend. It's not something we borrowed from the wellness world or from TikTok spirituality. Manifestation, rather, is deeply, wholly, undeniably Jewish, sourced in Torah and in Kabbalah. In fact, it's coded in the letters of creation. It's whispered throughout the Hebrew alphabet. It's deeply rooted in Torah sources and expounded through thousands of years of mystical tradition. So in today's episode, you're going to learn how the phrase Abra Kadabra isn't magic, it's Aramaic, and it literally means I create as I speak. You'll hear about how God didn't build the world with his hands, but rather he spoke it using vibrational frequency of sound into existence using 10 utterances. You'll discover how Adam, the first primordial man, didn't just name the animals, he manifested them into their essence, using the vibrational frequency of this holy speech. And we'll dive deep into one of the most powerful and overlooked tools of the soul, which in Kabbalah is called Koach HaMedameh, or the sacred Jewish power of imagination. In Kabbalah, imagination is not escapism. It's prophecy. It's a channel. It's the bridge between worlds. And when you imagine something with presence and intention, you are literally drawing it from the spiritual into your 3D physical world. So today's episode is going to be filled with sources, ideas, and just so much magic. And I mean the kosher kind of magic, because we're going to be weaving together the Torah, the Zohar, quantum physics, Kabbalah, and the wisdom of the mystics to show you that you were never meant to live in survival mode, but rather you were meant to co-create with the Creator. You were meant to speak worlds into existence. You were meant to visualize with your heart and partner with God in bringing light to earth. So if you've ever wondered whether manifestation is quote unquote kosher, not only is it kosher, it's sacred. So let's jump in. Becoming a co-creator with the Creator is your birthright. Together, we'll journey into your deepest authenticity. Because the more you align with who you truly are, the more effortlessly you call in the life that you desire and deserve. And most importantly, the more you step into your soul's highest purpose. Welcome to the Manifestation Method podcast, your #1 source for Kabbalistic manifestation. Here we combine the ancient wisdom of Kabbalah, modern psychology, and quantum physics to help you achieve real, tangible manifestation results with my proven Abra method. I'm Ayelet Polonsky, and I'm here to guide you on your journey of manifesting a life that is aligned, expansive, and deeply connected to your highest self through the sacred energetic mechanics of Kabbalistic manifestation. To learn how to use Kabbalistic manifestation to transform your life from the inside out, go to ayeletpolonsky.com or download the Manifestation Method app. Let's open the gates of manifestation together. Let's begin with the foundational idea that manifestation is not only compatible with Judaism, but it's deeply embedded in its mystical and scriptural DNA. So the Torah, the prophets, and Kabbalistic teachings are filled with examples of co-creation, intention, speech, and the power of the human soul to literally shape reality. Let's start with this phrase that has traveled through time and has been cloaked in magic and mystery. And that phrase is Abra Kadabra. Now, while many of us know abracadabra, if we've been to a magic show and we've seen a magician pull a rabbit out of a hat and utter the words abracadabra, and it may sound like magic from a fairy tale to many of us, but in reality, this phrase is ancient, and it actually comes from the language Aramaic, which is Old Hebrew, and Avra Kadavra. It translates to "I create as I speak." So this isn't just poetic. It's actually a Kabbalistic and energetic truth. In fact, in Judaism, speech is not a passive act. I create as I speak. Speech is an act of creation. The Torah begins with the divine, with the creator, creating the world not with tools, not with labor, but with words. So we see in Bereshit, the first book of Genesis, and we read it again and again, it says, "And God said, let there be light, let there be a firmament." It starts with, "And God said." These are the 10 utterances that brought the cosmos into existence. So why is this important? And how does this relate to you and me, human beings? Well, you and I were, according to Kabbalah, created in the image of God, created in what's called Tselem Elokim. And that means that you too have the ability to co-create with your words, because let's face it, God being the macrocosmic force of creation, if we're made in the image of God, we each have a God particle inside of us, meaning we are a microcosm of this macro creative force, aka we have creative capacities. And when you speak out loud your desires, your prayers, your intentions, your dreams, you're not just expressing something, you are activating something. And let's take this one step further. What does modern science, especially quantum physics, have to say about all of this? So, quantum physics has shown us that the universe is not made of static matter, hard object, but rather of vibrating energy. So that means that everything, including your body, including your thoughts, including your words, everything in existence is made of energy, is made of the substance that is called vibration. So each sound you speak, each utterance that comes out of your mouth literally sends vibrational ripples out into the quantum field, or the field of infinite possibility. It's that same field that directly responds to your intention, responds to your coherence, and responds to your energy. In fact, sound waves are one of the most powerful and purest forms of frequency. So when you speak, you are literally releasing vibratory patterns into space that interact with the energetic structure of reality. And this really deeply matches what Jewish mystics have always said, and that is that our words shape worlds. The Zohar and other Kabbalistic texts emphasize that Hebrew letters and Hebrew words are not just symbols, they are actually the spiritual DNA that carry encoded divine energy. And the Hebrew alphabet is said to have been the very building blocks through which the world was formed. So when we speak intentionally, when we speak with clarity, and we feel what we're saying in our body in a real embodied way, and we're coming from a place of deep alignment, you're not just making sound, you're transmitting energy into the field that actually holds this infinite potential. And this is at the core of everything I teach. This is at the core of manifestation. What you consistently vibrate, you attract. Period. So also think about it in the form of blessings, right? Or the power of spoken intention. Why are we told in Judaism to say a blessing out loud before we eat, before we light candles? after we go to the bathroom, from the minute we wake up to the minute we go to bed, we are reciting blessings out loud. Before any sacred act, after a sacred act, we're reciting blessings. This is because speech is a bridge between potential and physicality. Speech, according to Kabbalah, is the direct link between the physical world and the spiritual world. What you speak down here codes the upper realms with information, for better or worse, and that information manifests back here into 3D form. So when you declare something out loud with emunah, with faith, you're not just hoping for it, you're actually becoming a vessel for that thing that you want. So you are essentially saying to the infinite, to the quantum field of infinite possibility, to God, you're saying, I trust that my voice has power. And I trust that creation is ongoing. And I trust that I'm a part of that ongoing creation. And in this way, every spoken word becomes a spiritual command encoded with vibration, frequency, and intention. So how this shows up in actual day-to-day practice? Well, when you say affirmations like, I am worthy of love, you're imprinting your body and energy field with that vibration. Or when you recite a prayer, a psalm, a tefillah, you're aligning your vibration with centuries of sacred sound, of collective people who've all shared in that same consciousness for thousands of years, and you're tapping into that frequency. Or when you whisper a prayer for abundance, for health, for guidance, you're sending ripples through the unseen field that literally organizes and reorganizes your reality. In fact, Kabbalah teaches that Malchut, or the Sphira in the tree of life, the Sphira of Malchut is the Sphira of emanation, and it represents manifestation. It's the translation of energy into form. And Malchut, your queendom or your kingdom, what you're emanating, is activated not just by intention, but by speech. Speech is how the upper worlds descend into reality. So in short, Abra Kadabra isn't just magic. It's physics, it's mysticism, it's Kabbalah, it's Torah. And when you speak with intention, you are tuning your instrument, your soul, into the frequency of creation. And when your vibration is coherent and aligned with faith, truth, and clarity, you don't just hope for a miracle, you actually become the miracle. Now let's talk about another place where we see Kabbalah, where we see manifestation all over Torah and Kabbalah. And this is through the power that Adam, the first primordial man, that the power that he had to manifest through naming. So let's travel back to the Garden of Eden, which was the realm of pure potential, where creation was nearly complete, but not yet fully activated. So in Genesis, we read the line that says, and God brought the animals to man to see what he would call them. And whatever the man called each living creature, that was its name. So at first glance, we read this and it might seem like a simple, administrative task. But Kabbalistically, this moment in creation reveals something profound about our human role in the cosmos. Because before Adam gave each animal a name, they existed, but not in physical form. They existed in a more, I'd call it ethereal, unformed state. These animals, these plants, this vegetation, everything that existed in the world only existed in potential energy and was waiting for the spark that would finalize their essence in the physical plane. So it was Adam's act of naming through intentional conscious speech that grounded them into defined, activated 3D form, into reality. And according to the Zohar, which is the foundational text of Kabbalah, Adam didn't just invent labels. What he was doing when he named everything is he was accessing an inner truth. He was accessing the soul root or the shoresh neshama of each being. And he gave it a name that matched its essence. And in Hebrew, the word for name, Shem, is closely related to the word neshama, which means soul, and the word sham, which means there. So Shem, which is name, has a connection to neshama, which is soul, and sham, which is there, pointing to the idea that a name is not arbitrary, but rather it points to one's divine purpose and place in creation. So in short, naming is an act of manifestation. So Adam was not just observing reality, he was actually participating in its completion. And by speaking out loud the nature of each creature, he transformed the invisible into visible, the unexpressed into form. And there is a single verse in the Torah that holds one of the most radical and empowering truths about human beings. And that is that we are not just passive inhabitants of this world, we are co-creators. Now, God may have created the blueprint, but it is human consciousness. It is our human intention. It is our speech. It is our vibrational frequency. It is our energy that brings things into final form. And this is why the Midrash says that God left creation incomplete. It was so that man could be a partner in its completion. And when I say man, I mean man and woman. But to make things simple and concise, I'm going to say the word man throughout this podcast. But I mean man, woman. We were one androgynous being when we were created. That's a conversation for another day. So our job is not just to live in the world, but it's to interact with potential and actualize it, to make it real. And from a mystical perspective, every moment is like the Garden of Eden. Possibilities surround us, be it in jobs, relationships, in creativity, in love, in health, in abundance, right? But they only exist in potential until we name them, until we call them into our existence with deep clarity and belief in the possibility of that very thing, right? Until we declare, this is who I am, or this is what I choose, or let there be ... right? And this really echoes what we know from quantum physics as well, which I just find like, it blows my mind whenever I find sources that link Kabbalah and quantum physics. It just gives me like one of those pats on the back that says like, this is realer than real. Like we can't for a second argue that manifestation is not a real force in reality. And so in quantum physics, we know that the world exists in a field of infinite possibilities until consciousness observes or interacts. And the wave function then collapses into form. Okay, so what am I saying here? What I'm trying to say is that Adam's naming of things mirrors the observer effect in quantum physics. When you observe, when you speak, and when you name a reality, you actually shift energy into matter. You pull what is formless into form. So the act of naming is not just poetic, it's vibrational, it's energetic. It has the power to collapse the wave of possibility into the particle of reality. And so what this means for us today is that when you name your vision, right, when you say, I am building a life of purpose, I attract sacred love, I'm calling in abundance, you are actually finalizing potential into reality. When you name your intention, you are engaging in the very act that Adam was entrusted with. And we all today have a piece of that primordial Adam within us. We are descendants, so to speak, of that primordial being. So we have that same co-creative capacity. And when you claim your identity with empowered language, you are doing exactly what God designed humans to do, to bring spiritual blueprints into form. We're not just allowed to manifest. We're not just given permission to manifest. We're literally designed to manifest. It's what we're here to do. I get so passionate about the subject, if you cannot tell. So, ultimately here, Adam's naming wasn't casual. It was a sacred act of manifestation, and it teaches us that words finalize energy, that human speech activates dormant potential, and that naming is holy co-creation, right? You're not just describing your world, you're defining it. And another place where we see manifestation written all over our sacred texts is in Exodus, where Moses stands before the burning bush and he asks God, when I come to the Israelites and I tell them, the God of your ancestors sent me to you, and when they ask me, what is the name of this God? What shall I say to them? And God responds to Moses with this phrase. He says, tell them, Echye asher echye. I will be what I will be. God responding in this way, telling Moses to go back to the Israelites and tell them that Echye asher echye has sent Moses to free the Jewish people from exile, is not God's way of just dodging Moses' question. It's an actual download of one of the deepest truths in all of existence. Because in Hebrew, Echye is in the future tense. God is essentially saying, I am becoming, I am unfolding, I am infinite potential, constantly choosing to manifest. This divine name is not static, it's evolutionary. It signals that even the Creator is in a process of revealing, becoming, and birthing reality into form. So what does this reveal about you and me? What it reveals is that we were made b'tselem Elokim. We were made in the image of the Creator. And so what does this mean that God's name is Echye Asher Echye? It means that you too are, quote, I will be what I will be. You are not locked in your past. You are not limited by current circumstances. You are a vibrational being with creative power, and every moment is a divine invitation to step into a new version of yourself. And from a manifestation lens, this is ginormous. You are not meant to declare, this is who I am and this is who I'll always be. But rather, you're meant to say, I am becoming who I choose to be. And it's an invitation in every moment to choose again and again and again. You are not locked into any horoscope. You are not locked in to any defined future. You get to become who you choose to be. And this is also why affirmations and declarations can be so powerful, because they vibrate with the same frequency as Echye. They align you with the creative unfolding of your future. And this also actually matches a key idea in quantum theory, because quantum physics says that reality is not fixed, but rather it's probabilistic. Your intention, your expectation, your vibration, they all determine the outcome. They are all probabilistic. In quantum terms, every version of you already exists in the field of potential. So when you speak your I am statements, I am love, I am ready, I am abundant, I am whole, you attune to the vibration of that reality. And by doing so, you collapse that version of you into 3D form. You are aligning with Echye, with the becoming, the unfolding, and the choosing of what will be. So in short, when God says, Echye asher echye, He's really modeling what it means to manifest identity through intentional being, right? We too are called co-creators, not from who we've been, but rather who we're choosing to become. To say I am becoming is actually, in a way, speaking the language of God. which I just find so beautiful. And another place where we see manifestation written all over Kabbalah, and this is to me is like really just the secret sauce to so much of the work that I put out into the world. It's in what's called Koach HaMedameh. Koach HaMedameh is the faculty of imagination. It's the creative force of the soul. Okay, so Koach HaMedameh, which is visualization, it's imagination, that's what it translates into, is sacred, it's potent, and it's one of the highest faculties of the Nefesh Elokit, of the divine soul. Using your imagination, using the power of visualization, is one of the highest faculties of aligning with your divine soul. I think that's so beautiful. Whereas like so much of the Western rational thought has really dismissed imagination as fantasy, where Kabbalah respects it as the bridge between the world of potential and the world of form. So if we take the words Koach HaMedameh, even you look at the word Koach, it actually means power. And HaMedameh translates to the imaginer, or one who forms likenesses. So this refers to the soul's ability to form inner images or symbols or visions. Right? It's a faculty that mirrors divine creation itself, because like I've said a few times now, we are made b'tselem Elohim. You are made in the image of God. You have within you a God particle, this creative force. And as God envisioned the world before speaking it into existence, we too must first imagine it before we create it. And we see also in his foundational work, Derech Hashem, the way of God, the Ramchal explains that the human being is not just made of flesh and bone, but rather is a spiritual architecture with inner channels of perception. And among these channels of perception is the imagination. The imagination is the soul's projector. The imagination is able to perceive realms beyond the physical and draw spiritual realities into being. And the Ramchal goes on to say that when one visualizes a desired outcome with clarity and with feeling it in their body, he or she becomes a channel, attracting subtle spiritual energies towards that vision. And this is exactly what modern manifestation teaches. If you can see it and you can feel it, you can manifest it. And even modern neuroscience and quantum physics are now confirming what Kabbalah has said for thousands of years. And that's that the brain doesn't distinguish between imagination and reality. When you imagine something vividly, when you close your eyes and you see yourself in your manifested dream life, and you can hear the sounds of the people around you or the birds chirping, and you can feel the excitement in your body, the body begins to respond as if it's real. Hormones actually begin to shift. New neural pathways begin to fire, and you start vibrating in alignment with that imagined vision. It's so powerful, right? And again, according to quantum physics, everything is energy and frequency. And the observer, which is your consciousness, has the ability to influence the behavior of whatever it is you're looking at the particles that that your eyeballs are staring at. So what happens when your imagination, your emotion, and your words all align around a single desired vision? You create what I call coherence. You become magnetic. You become a vessel for divine flow. You become a sovereign manifester. And in the teachings of Hasidut and Kabbalah, the process of creative manifestation through this Koach HaMedameh, through the imaginative faculties, looks like this. It's like a 5-step process. It starts with ratzon, which is desire, which is a spark of wanting. What is it that you want? Then you activate your dimyon, your imagination, which is the inner picture, the visioning of what it is you desire, seeing it in your mind's eye. Then it's hitbonenut, which means contemplation. This is emotional integration. This is where you feel it in your body as though it's already yours. It's feeling it on a level where I know that I know that I know it's real. I can feel it. It's something's moving inside my body. It's not just in my head. It's not just a visual, but I'm bringing it down into the world of the soma. And then there's the fourth step, which is dibur, which translates to speech. And that's what we've been talking about a lot in this episode, which is expressing it through affirmations, through prayer, through blessings. And then finally, the fifth step is asiya, which is action. And this is all about taking what I call aligned, inspired action. It's grounded steps towards that which you desire. It's the rituals, it's the behavior, it's the making the phone call, saying yes to the interview, saying yes to the date, right? That's where your action comes into play. And this 5-step process is literally how we co-create with God. This is how we draw future realities into the present form. In fact, the Baal Shem Tov, who's the founder of the Hasidic movement, he taught that a person is where their thoughts are. You are where your thoughts are. So you might be listening to this episode, but you're thinking about sitting on a beach in Bora Bora drinking a cocktail of your choice. So according to the Baal Shem Tov, even though you might be driving in your car, sitting at your desk right now, listening to this episode, you are actually in Bora Bora drinking your cocktail because your imagination is your reality. Where your mind goes, consciousness flows. Where consciousness goes, energy flows. Okay? If you are constantly imagining lack, fear, or failure, that becomes the frequency you live in. But if you train your imagination to dwell in wholeness, in trust, in abundance, that's what you will begin to draw into your life. You know, he even taught that visualizing healing and joy during prayer helps draw down divine light from the higher worlds into the physical worlds. I mean, how rich is this spiritual blueprint called the Torah, called Kabbalah? Right? And how reassuring is it to know that we are here to co-create, right? According to the Rambam, Maimonides, all true prophets use the faculty of Koach HaMedameh, their imaginative faculties, in order to receive divine vision, right? The clearer and more pure their imagination, the clearer the prophetic transmission. Okay, so in summary here, Koach HaMedameh is really a divine gift. When you see your vision internally, your soul begins to vibrate in its frequency. And this aligns your body, mind, and spirit to become a channel for divine light. And your imagination then literally becomes the womb of your reality. This is Jewish manifestation, and this is sacred co-creation. And to tie this in with quantum physics, there is a concept known as entanglement, where particles that are connected through space and time can influence each other instantly. This is similar to Koach HaMoshech, meaning everything in the universe is connected. And your energy can have an immediate effect on what comes towards you. By aligning with the right frequency of love, abundance, peace, faith, you create an energetic resonance that pulls corresponding experiences into your life, regardless of their distance or time frame. And when you are in alignment with divine flow and when you are in your purpose, this force of Koach HaMoshech literally operates at its highest potential. So the more that you can focus on the positive, the more you're able to attract goodness, health, wealth, love. But on the flip side, the reverse is also true. When you're stuck in a negative thought, in old patterns that are no longer serving you, you're actually blocking the flow of this powerful energy. You know, and I love this when it comes to like I giving tzedakah, giving charity. Like one example, which is one example of where we literally see Koach HaMoshech. So the Talmud teaches that when you give with a generous heart, you actually draw more blessings towards you. It's this like energetic flow, this energetic exchange. Everything happens in this energetic flow in the universe. And it's not just about material exchange, but about the spiritual alignment that the giving creates. So by giving, you actually magnetize abundance into your life. Right? And this really aligns with the principle of measure for measure, or mida keneged mida in Hebrew, which states that the energy you give out is the energy that comes back to you. You know, I've seen it in my own marriage. Like the more we give, the more we get. And it's something my husband always says, Ayala, you want abundance? You want to receive? Well, you got to be a go-giver to be a go-getter. You got to give in order to get. Another place where we see manifestation in Torah and Kabbalah is in the power of tefillah, prayer. And I really just want to kind of debunk the old school idea of how we perceive prayer. I think oftentimes when we think of prayer, we think of it as a plea. We think of it as us coming to God as beggars. God, give me this. I need that. But according to Judaism, according to Torah and Kabbalah, prayer is not merely about requesting. It's about realignment. In fact, the root of the word lehitpalel, prayer, is the word palel. And so the Hebrew word for prayer, palel, means to refine myself. In fact, tefillah is a reflexive verb. So grammatically, what that implies is that when you're praying, you are doing something to yourself. It's a reflexive verb. You're doing something to yourself. And that thing you're doing, the word palel, means I am refining myself. It means, palel literally means to hope, to imagine, to dream, to envision. So in other words, when you pray, you're not changing God, you're changing you. You are literally aligning your inner frequency with your highest potential and with divine flow. By praying, you're not changing God's mind. You are shifting who you are. You are becoming the version of yourself who is already worthy, already abundant, already healed. This is deep, deep, deep manifestation. Tefillah, essentially, prayer, is a subconscious reprogramming. This reflexive aspect of prayer is also beautifully aligned with modern psychology, right? When you engage in heartfelt prayer, especially when it's done consistently and with kavanah, with deep intention, you're literally reprogramming your subconscious mind. You're shifting from scarcity to abundance. You're shifting from fear to trust, from confusion to clarity, from separation to unity. You are essentially saying to yourself, this is who I'm becoming, and this is what I believe is possible, and this is what I'm attracting into my life. And like I mentioned earlier, speech has vibrational frequency. So in quantum terms, when we speak with emotion and clarity, we emit a frequency that interacts with the field of infinite potential. And the clearer and more aligned the emotion is behind the prayer, the more intentional you are when you are speaking to the divine and in a sense, reflexively changing something in yourself, the more powerfully it moves energy. Right? You're literally, when you're praying, you're magnetizing a new timeline. You're activating your creative speech center, or your Koach HaDibur, which means the power of speech. You're tuning into the vibration of trust and surrender. So I invite you to look at prayer as a mirror, not coming to prayer anymore as a beggar. but really is putting this like cosmic, sacred, divine mirror in front of your face every time you speak to God, because you're also speaking to the Tselem Elohim that's inside of you. You're speaking to the God particle that's inside yourself. You're not convincing God to change something out there. You're reshaping something in here. When you align your inner world through prayer, your outer world has no choice but to follow. So good. And another place, and this is one of my favorite lines in all of Sefer Yetzirah, the Kabbalistic texts. It's a line that goes, Sof ma'aseh b'machshavat tchila. The end result begins with thought. Or another way to translate it is, the end result exists in the initial thought. This phrase isn't just poetic. It's a spiritual law. In fact, I have it written out in Hebrew in the middle of my dining room because I just love it so much. In Kabbalah, this concept teaches that before anything exists in the physical world, it must first be conceived in the mind of the Creator. Thought is the blueprint for your reality. Reality is the construction that follows the blueprint. So the Creator, in this view, imagined the universe before speaking it into being, right? First, there was machshava, divine thought. Then it was followed by dibur, speech. And finally, ma'aseh, action. So this is the metaphysical order of creation. And since we are created b'tselem Elohim, since we're created in the image of God, we manifest in the same exact way, right? Unlike what modern culture often assumes, Judaism does not treat thoughts as inconsequential or as invisible. On the contrary, thought is the seed of reality. Like I said, the Baal Shem Tov said, where your thoughts are, that's where you are. And we'll take it one step further. Rebbe Nachman of Breslov, he says that if you focus on a thought with all of your intention, it must come true. Right? The mind is not a passive observer. It's a causal force. And when you think a thought repetitively, it creates neural pathways. It creates emotional responses and energy patterns in your body. And those patterns influence your speech, right? What you affirm, what you're worrying about, what you're hoping for, what you complain about, right? What you love about yourself. All of these things are patterns that influence your speech, and that speech then leads to action, which then determines the outcomes. And it all works together as this like holistic methodology. So when the Torah tells us to guard our thoughts with our heart and our mind, it's because your thoughts are the starting point of reality itself. Think of it this way. Just like an architect must draft a plan before the builders arrive, your inner world, meaning your imagination, your beliefs, your expectations, is the architecture of your future. Kabbalah reminds us to be holy, not just in deed, not just in action, but in thought. Because thought is the true epicenter. It's the origin, it's the control center of everything that has yet to follow. And this is why visualization and meditation and intentionality are so central in every iota of Jewish lifestyle, of Jewish practice, right? They're not like these things, the visualization, the meditation, the kavana, the intention. They're not just like nice little add-ons to your day. They are the very acts of co-creation, right? So there's this like feedback loop that happens here, or spiritual feedback loop, I'll call it. And it starts with machshava, which is thought, followed by dibur, which is speech, followed by ma'aseh, which is action, and then finally goral, which is destiny. Thought, speech, and action lead to your destiny. You are a co-creator. What begins as a subtle inner impression becomes speech, then turns to action, then manifests in your 3D. right? And this is why our sages say in our scriptures, a person who sanctifies themselves below is sanctified from above. Meaning, when you purify your internal landscape, the outer world follows. It's inevitable. It's a foolproof system, right? When God created the world, the entire process was one of manifestation. It was one that started with an intention, followed by visualization, followed by vibration through speech, and then it turned into form. And we are walking proof of the manifestation. We are literally living in God's manifestation. We are living God's visualization as we speak, right? So in practical terms, Sof Ma'aseh B'Machshavat Tchila teaches us not to dismiss our daydreams. Your daydreams might actually be glimpses of what your soul came here to create. It teaches us to be intentional with our thoughts because they're not just in your head, they are the pipeline of your reality. So really learn how to micromanage what's going on in there, because the truth is, we got to clean up the clutter. Research shows that the average person thinks up to 80,000 thoughts per day. That breaks down to about 47 thoughts per minute. And of all that thinking going on every second of every day, 80% of that thinking for the average person tends to be negative, tends to be limiting beliefs, resentments, fear, right? It's literally a blueprint that can distort the outcome that you actually want. So we got to clean up the clutter and use your focused intention to do that. Whether you're praying, whether you're working, whether you're dreaming, intentional thought activates spiritual energy. And so I hope you're feeling a little more empowered in knowing that you do have the power to choose what it is that you think on a moment-to-moment basis. And I'm not saying that this work is easy, but you got to start somewhere. Okay, that was a lot of food for thought today. So I would just love to remind you that manifestation isn't just possible for you. It's literally your birthright. It's literally your responsibility. Torah and Kabbalah does not ask us to wait for miracles. It teaches us to become the vessels through which miracles occur. Right? And as we've explored today together, manifestation isn't just a trendy concept. It's a deeply Jewish one, a Kabbalistic one. From the very first words of the Torah to the mystical teachings of the Kabbalist, we're reminded again and again and again, we, you, me, are co-creators with the divine. Our thoughts are not random. Our words are not empty. Our imagination is not silly. And our prayers are not just wishes. They are sacred acts of alignment. So whether it's the power of speech through Abra Kadabra, or the soul root naming of Adam, or the divine descent into Malchut, every layer of our tradition affirms that creation begins within. That's why I always say manifestation is shifting your world from the inside out. So I invite you to live with a little more awareness today. Speak with intention. Visualize with faith. And pray not just to be answered, but to be transformed from the inside out. Because in the Jewish view of reality, your inner world is not separate from the divine. It's where the divine reveals itself. So perhaps we can close with a mantra together. I invite you to take a deep breath in through your nose and say in your mind the words, Yehi Or, let there be light. And let that light begin inside you. Let it illuminate your mind, your heart, your path. And on the next exhale, repeat this affirmation. I am a vessel for divine creation. What I envision with love and speak with faith comes into form. It is so, it is so, it is so. Amen. Thanks so much for joining me on today's episode. This one was a really special one for me to put together and to share, because it's really years and years and years of research and sacred work and investigating and trying to like really clarify for myself and for the world what we're here to do, why we came here, what we're meant to become, what our purpose is. And I hope you're feeling a little more inspired as a co-creator. And if this episode left you with some nuggets that you think someone else could really benefit from, please pay it forward. Share this episode with them. Leave a comment, like the page, share the love. Remember, the energy you put out is the energy you receive. And so for me, sharing this episode really comes from a place of love, and I hope you feel it. And I would love to receive the love in return. And I can't wait to see you next time. Here's to your rising. If you enjoyed this episode, let's keep the conversation going inside the Manifestation Method Portal app, your #1 destination for Kabbalistic manifestation. Inside, you'll unlock the secrets of manifestation through my proven Abra method, rooted in Kabbalah, psychology, and quantum physics, designed to help you manifest real, tangible results from the inside out. Join our global community of manifestors, explore our signature courses, monthly live manifestation workshops with me, Ayelet, and access our transformational hypno activations and attunements to rewire limiting beliefs and align with your soul's purpose. The app is available now on the Apple App Store and Google Play. To sign up, head over to ayeletpolonsky.com. Becoming a co-creator with the Creator is your birthright. Let's manifest the life you desire and deserve together.